Welcome once more to the channel. This is where we discuss matters international schools, how to get into them, how to teach in them, how to thrive in them, and create or help create successful learners. So my name is Edwin Maina, and in the last 2 or 3 videos I've been looking at SEL, social emotional learning. This is something that is gaining currency in many schools. How do we look out for the social emotional state of our students, and how do we equip them with skills so that they become more resilient, so that they become responsible decision makers, so that they become students who take responsibility for their own learning, they get into meaningful relationships, and they become happy and well adjusted individuals. So welcome. Today we are going to talk about thinking skills, and with a view to looking at creative and critical thinking skills, and actually asking ourselves, is it possible to teach thinking skills? How do we even teach thinking skills? Is it possible in class, outside class, explicitly, implicitly? So that is what the video is all about. I request that you like the video and consider subscribing so that once I release videos like this, YouTube can notify you. So without much further ado, let's dive in. Welcome. Let's start looking at thinking as a skill that promotes social emotional learning. Is it possible to teach thinking? Is it possible to teach students how to think? Do we even do that? In the IB, we talk about creative and critical thinking, which involves challenging students or teaching students how to think creatively, how to apply new information, how to have different perspectives, how to be open-minded, and how to apply what they already know in new perspectives or in new domains. So as you can see, thinking can actually make a student a better person. But how do you teach thinking? We just take it for granted, and we tell students, be creative in your thinking, be critical in your thinking. How can we do this explicitly and implicitly in the learning environment within the school or even outside school, but within the school principally where we meet the students? Let's think about this way. You have students in a class. They have a task. They are supposed to think of creative ideas. And I find students telling me, so give us an idea. Give us a creative idea. And that's the last thing I'll do, and my students know that. I'll not agree to think for them. So come up with your own thinking. Where could you get ideas from? Past experience, possibly. Where could you get ideas from? Stories that you've read, places you've traveled, stories you've heard from other people, and you make them yours and you contextualize them, and so on. So we need to challenge students that they're expected to become critical and creative thinkers. And this cannot happen if we do not challenge them, if we think for them. The other thing is where we actually have a thinking session and we brainstorm. For example, before we start a certain exercise, we brainstorm. We want possibly to shortlist or curate the ideas that we are going to use in our learning task. And everyone is supposed to give ideas, and the ideas will not be perfect. And possibly you make some ground rules. For example, do not criticize anyone's idea. When we are brainstorming, all ideas are valid. And possibly have one of the students go to the board and write them down, or type on their laptop, or write on a piece of paper, whatever the case may be. Then you could come back and look at 3 viable ideas, okay, and possibly do this together with the students. So let's discuss idea 1. What's wrong with it? The pros and the cons, and the students talk about it and they debate. As they're doing this, they're actually engaging in creative and critical thinking. You know, they say, no, this kind of idea will take too long to discuss or to present and so on, or we don't have enough sources on this or materials. So you see, they're already thinking. Then they come to the second idea, the third idea, they discuss, and then you can take a vote, or you can actually, as the teacher, say, okay, let's go with idea 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 4, or whatever the case may be. And then they start working. So if they're working, you go around the groups and you listen to them. And there's an approach called fly on the wall. You go to the students group and you say, I'm a fly on the wall. Assume I'm not here, I'm just listening to what's going on, don't mind me. Because sometimes they want to discuss the ideas through you, to filter them through you, to hear what you're going to say. You just keep quiet. You tell them, I'm a fly on the wall. I'm not going to respond. Then they discuss and keep agreeing and disagreeing. But the thing you want to do is ask them why. Why did you think of that? Then ask them, have you thought of this perspective? But tell them that no idea is better than the other. All ideas are good. All these ideas are good, but how do we evaluate them? So slowly by slowly, you're challenging these students to get into a thinking routine. You're challenging to get into a thinking pattern. You move to a different group, and maybe someone asks a question and you think it should be told to the whole class, so you stop the activity and you answer, but you still keep challenging them. Why are you thinking that way? How will that relate to what our objective is, and so on? So I find that my work in that case becomes more of a guide, an inspirer, a coach, not really a teacher who is telling them what to do, but guiding them. And finally, the product that they will have will be a good one. So thinking, you can apply that in social emotional learning when you have those lessons in class. Someone is getting bullied online. What do you do? What are the perspectives? What are the options? What are the choices they have, and so on? And everybody gives their own thoughts. So you actually go ahead and incorporate that into their lives. You're helping them to think through things, not just answer questions. There's this behavior, especially with middle school students. You ask them a question and they just give an answer without thinking. And then you ask them, what made you say that? What is the thinking behind your answer? And then they tell you, and so on and so forth. Something else you may want to do is to define the command terms for the students so that they know what brainstorming means, what evaluation means, what discussion means. Don't assume they know, and give them the discussions in a very basic manner so that they all understand. So if we are going to brainstorm, what exactly are we doing? So don't start using terms and then, they don't know what you're talking about. So if you tell them that we are thinking and we want to think about our thinking, this is metacognition. What does it mean? Okay? So they need to know the command terms. So discuss, elaborate, analyze, present. They need to know all these terms. They need to know what they mean. The other thing you may want to do, or that is necessary in thinking skills, is the whole issue of students thinking critically and not just taking information at face value. I have found students, in fact, I remember a colleague telling me that we have many students who are not intellectually curious. Maybe because of social media. I don't know what the cause may be, but I remember when we were students, you would hear a new word and you'd want to find out the meaning. We didn't have the internet. So you go to the dictionary, you're checking up, you're asking the older students, what does this mean, and so on. Then you get to learn and expand your knowledge. But students now, I observe them in class, and I'm talking across many schools as an experienced teacher, where a student asks a question and someone quips from the other corner and they tell them the answer. The student just says, okay, thank you, and they continue working, and they've just accepted that as the truth. Are you going to search a bit more? What if the guy told you the wrong thing, even though they told you in good faith? So we need to teach students to counter-check facts. We are living in an age of fake news. So how do you just read something online or see something online and believe it and start spreading it? We are not building that kind of citizen. We are not building that kind of individual. How do you become a critical thinker? Number one is to have diverse sources of information. Compare information from different sources. Look at information from different perspectives. Okay, let's talk of something like gambling, for example, sports gambling. Let's discuss this topic. If you talk from the perspective of a CEO of a company, if you talk from the perspective of someone who does betting and has lost a lot of money, if you talk from the perspective of a government official, if you talk from the perspective of the spouse of the person who has lost a lot of money, do you think they are going to look at the problem the same way? Of course not. So you must teach students about perspectives. Perspectives are very important. So whose perspective are you looking at? That is one thing. So it is good to look at things from different perspectives. Then you can get a rounder picture, a bigger picture of the scenario. Number two, we teach them how to question things that are taken as normal, things that are taken not quite normal, but as given, and no one has questioned them. Okay? We teach them how to be open-minded. We teach them how to transfer knowledge. So if they learned a skill in language and literature and they can apply it in a different subject, very good. That's what effective students do. They transfer knowledge from one domain to another. If they learn something in drama, confidence, presentation, skills, and so on, giving feedback, giving effective feedback, how can they transfer those skills to other subjects so that they are not reinventing the wheel all the time? So if you do this, if you do some of these things, some of these approaches, and you challenge students that way, you'll point them to the right direction. And you'll find that your students become more creative in their thinking, more critical, a bit more thoughtful, which hopefully is the goal of every educator. So there we are, fellow teachers. It's amazing that we can take every minute, every moment to teach our students thinking critically and thinking creatively. And these are some of the approaches. What other approaches do you think we can use to highlight these skills? Maybe you can comment in the comment section, and I will really be grateful. Thank you very much. We'll see you in the next one.